If you are a little bit OCD like I am, then I know how long it takes you to make everything perfectly aligned in Canva. But in today's video, I'm going to show you how to align everything, how to resize, and lots of tips and shortcut keys along the way to make designing in Canva a snap. And you can use everything that I'm going to teach you today with images as well. So let's jump into Canva and let's get started. So let's begin with alignment and sizing. Okay, fun. So one way that you might be doing it to align your current text or elements is by using the ruler. So if you hover over the ruler here, you'll have the two-sided arrow, and then you click and hold, you will have a line that will appear that you will use as your guide. Now, if you don't have the ruler, you can either click on Shift and R, or you can come over here where it says File and then Settings and then Show Rulers and Guides. So that can show you here, or the shortcut key, Shift and R, okay? And then you can move your text and make sure they're all up against that line, right? So that's one way you could do it, right? Or let's go ahead and move that out of the way. Another way, the fastest way for you to align things is to grab the first text and align it to where you want it to be. So let's say we want it right there. And then you grab all of your elements that is underneath that, so they're all grouped together. You go to position and then you click left because we want to align it to the left like this one on top. So it's going to use this one as the guide. So you click on left and there we go. It will align them all to that left. Okay. Now we want to tidy them up. So we want the same spacing between the first and second line and the second and third. So for that, you use the evenly spaced tidy up and watch what it will do when I click it, right? So now we have the perfect amount of spacing between all three of our bullet points, okay? So that's how you will align your text. Now we can do the same thing with our elements. So, and also for images. So if you grab the element, let's go ahead and you can either drag it around until you see the lines is in the center, right? But who has time for that? So what you'll do is, this is where you want it to be, right? So what you'll do is you grab both of the elements, and we want them to be relative to each other and group them together. So once you highlight them both, that's what it will do. It will put them in the middle, well, actually already aligned in the center. So there's nothing for me to do. So I'm going to go ahead and group those together because I want to do some further alignment, right? So we'll do the second one. So it recognized that that center one is also in the middle. Now let's grab this third one, and okay, this third one is not in the center. All right, so now we could go ahead and click on the middle, and it's going to align both elements to the center of each other, and then we're going to go ahead and group it. And now because it's grouped, now we can move these around and the check mark and the text will stay together. All right, so now let's move the text. Let's say we want it down here. We want the first one to be right up here. And the center one, we could either eyeball it or use the same concept, highlight them all, because it's going to keep the first one at the top, the last one at the bottom. It's not going to move those two. And then we're going to tidy up, and it's only going to move all of the elements that might be in the center. And again, this goes for everything, whether it's images, elements, or text. It's going to tidy up and make them evenly spaced, whatever you have highlighted. Okay, so that's how you can easily align all of the elements from each other on a page. Okay, now if you want to resize them, again, because they are already grouped and they're relative to each other, you can just highlight all of it, and then you can decrease the size from right here, from the corner. Or if you want to do it individually, again, you can just click on the elements right here, and then you can open the position, and then you can manually enter the size of the width and the height that you want for that element. So you have that in case there's some elements you need a precise measurements, then you can certainly use that. Otherwise, you have to kind of use it one here and kind of eyeball it, right? And that's who wants to do that. Okay, so that's how you can align and resize elements, and everything is nice and straight. Okay, again, you can always use the lines here. So for example, if I want to make sure I have multiple pages and I want to make sure that the titles is perfectly aligned to this corner, then you can bring the ruler and have those alignments for the horizontal and vertical set there for you, and it will actually add the guides to every page now. So now if I go to my next page, you'll see the guide is right there, right? So that's super, super neat. Now, if you want to remove any of these guides, you can either grab it and move it off the page, or if you have a lot of them, you can right click, click on guides, and then clear your guides. So here I have an example where you might want to have them all evenly spaced. So these, I have elements here, but these could be boxes, they could be images, they could be numbers 1 through 9, and you want to make sure that they are perfectly aligned into 9 different boxes. Okay, so what you can, there's several ways that you could do this. Let me go ahead and remove this and this. And you could either, same concept like we had done before, you can either group them all line by line and bring them to more or less where you want them, and then use the tidy, right? So here you would use horizontal and tidy, right? Or, and then the same thing, right? You can do vertical and tidy. So, right, you would have to do this, what, 6 times, right? So, but you'll know for sure that they're all perfectly aligned to each other, as you can see, right? Or another way that you could do this is like you want to actually add boxes. So what you could do here, if in the design you click on /, you'll have this menu that will come up here for you. So let's say we're going to go ahead and use a table. So if you click on table, you have the table option right here. So you'll just click on the table option, and we want 3 rows and 3 columns. So we'll just click on that right there, just like you would in your Word document, right? And then you can expand the table to exactly how big you want it in your design, right? Then what we'll do is you go ahead and move the table to the back so that you can use those elements. All right. So then what you'll do is, and then you can move the elements right here so that you can see that they're centered inside each box. Okay. You see how that 85, that means they're perfectly distanced from each other. But again, this is one of those things where you kind of have to eyeball it, right? But I just want to show you the different options of however you want to use it. So you can do that, move these around. Okay, so now you know they're perfectly spaced out. Now you can either keep the table, you can design it. So if you want to make some spaces in between each one, you can certainly do that. You have to make this a little bit smaller so you can see all 4 sides, right? And then you can change the color of it if that's what you like to do. So you can certainly do that. Or if it's just for reasons that you want to just make sure they're all evenly spaced out, and then you can just grab the box and just delete it. And then you have, you know, all your perfectly spaced 9 boxes. All right. You can also use the guides as well. So if you click on guides here, you can change the amount of guides here. So we can do a 3 by 3. You click on the 3 by 3, you can add the guides. There we go. And it adds the guides. Now, if you want to change the spacing of the guides, what you'll do is you go back into your guides here and you add custom. Then you'll do your 3 columns, your 3 rows, right? And then you add the gap, however size you want it. So let's say you want that 15 pixel gap. So you can do that. You can change that. There we go. So you can make your own guides however you want that to be. And then you can just click on the full element guide and then just clear it. And then now you have 9 perfectly spaced out elements. So now let's move on to line spacing. So this happens a lot, especially when we're creating bullet points, is that if we click on the text box and we try to create some spacing between the bullet points, it actually creates spacing between all of the lines. And we don't want that, right? It doesn't allow us to create the spacing just between each bullet point. So in order to be able to create some separation between the bullet points, what you'll do is you'll press enter and then backspace to remove each one of the bullet points that it's going to create, right? And then you come back into that space double click back into that space, and then go into the spacing and then reduce the spacing from there. So let's go ahead and make it 70. Another way that you could do it is, again, you can double click in that space and then reduce the font size, and that will bring those lines closer together as well. So you could do either way. So that's how you can create some spacing between the bullet points without having to create 1, 2, 3, 4 different text boxes and then try to align those text boxes to each other. Now let's move on to text design. So now there is a way for you to be able to create text design like this without creating individual boxes. You see how this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different boxes. Now the problem with this is that this is where I see where a lot of misalignment occurs, is when you create all of these different boxes, because there could be an extra space. I mean, let's just say here, there could be an extra space, which move this to the side. Right? This one can have an extra space. And so for those of us who are designers, we can spot for the most part where something is quite off, right? So in order to prevent that, you can go ahead and do it that way if you want, have them all individual size, but just make sure that there's no spacing, right? Make sure that you remove any spacing before and any spacing after. You see how there's a space there? So when you center everything, position, right? And everything is centered or centered here, however you want to align it, that is perfectly centered, right? Unless you purposely want something to be offset, then that's a different, that's a different story, different design, right? So let me show you how to create this design in just one text box, okay? So let's go ahead and remove this. I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to show you how I could do it. Now, if we go to try to change some of these elements, if you, let's say let's limit yourself, we want to change that text to something else. So let's go for 4 seasons. You'll see that all of the text actually changes. And the reason for that is because they're all grouped together. So in order for you to be able to assign a different text to a grouping of text like this, is to actually, let me go undo this, is to make this align by itself. And again, as I said before, make sure that there's no spacing. So remove the spacing there and then remove the spacing right here. And then now it's on its own line. And now you can grab that and add whatever text and whatever font size you want to add to it, because now it's by itself. Okay. Now what you do is, in order for the spacing here, you would do the same thing we did with the bullet points. So we'll go ahead and grab the last letter here and the first letter here, and then reduce the spacing. So it reduces the line to just those 2 lines only and not the rest of the text. Okay, so there we go. So we're starting there. Right now we want to do, what was the other one? We want this again to be in a line by itself. So we're going to remove the spacing and press enter. And we wanted this one to be bold. So now we can go ahead and bold this and make this font just a bit bigger, so that you're able to do. Okay. And now I want this to also be the script. So I'm going to go back and change that to script. And then I can make this whatever I also want. Perhaps let's make that a navy. So let's do that a navy, and then let's make this 120. Let's make the box bigger. Oh, maybe that's too big. Let's do 100. All right, that's a little bit better. And again, I want to reduce the space between these 2 lines. So I'm just going to hover over the T and the I, and then remove the line spacing there. And then perhaps I want to italicize this. There we go. And I also want this one to be navy. All right, so we'll go ahead and change that. So now that is a way, an easier way, where you can create all of the different types of effects that you can find in a lot of different designs that you'll see around the internet and around social media. But you can create it all in one box, and then you can ensure that everything is aligned and centered without having all of those other different boxes. Okay. You can also create some overlap here as well. So if you want, you can grab the F and the J, and then you can reduce the spacing here, and it'll give you some overlap there if that's the look that you want. Just ensure that there's enough contrast between the two. So if this situation, if this is something that you wanted to do, let's add a little bit, there's too much spacing there. Let's go ahead and increase this a little bit more. And it overlaps just a little bit. So maybe what you could do is that you could make this a lighter color so that it doesn't compete against the E, right? So you can see it. So that is a way that you can create the different fonts to create a design like this without having individual text boxes. Okay, let's grab this and let's make a little bit more space there. And there we go. Let's remove this. Let's remove this. And that's like a social media post that you can add right there. And you can grab this and you can make it bigger. You can make it smaller. You can make this however you want. One thing that I just realized, let's go ahead and use our new position, middle center, right? One way that you can resize any element, any image, any text, but keeping it where it's at in the center is if you click on it, you see that if I grab this corner, it's going to make the design bigger, but it's going to pull it to the left, right? If I grab it from here, it's going to make bigger or smaller, but it's going to pull it to the right or make it smaller to the left, right? So one way we can go ahead and keep it centered, make it bigger or smaller, but keep it relative to the position where it's at, is to press and hold the Alt, grab whichever corner, and then make it as big or as small as you want it. And it will keep the position where it's at is always going to be in the center. If you continue to press and hold the Alt key, come out of the space here, it shows you the distance for all four corners so that you know it's exactly in the center. Okay, so that's another tip there for you. If you want more of these shortcut keys, I did create a PDF with a little bit over 45 Canva keyboard shortcut keys. So if you're interested in having that, feel free to download it. It is completely free. I'll have the link in the description down below. All right, so now let's do some text snap and some more alignment. Okay, so text snap. So what is that? So you know, when you create a text line, by default, it makes the alignment center. So what happens is if your text doesn't take up the whole line, then you have all of this extra spacing here. When we're trying to fill up every available space, if we try to do this, sometimes it just you have to nitpick, right? And sometimes it's not quite, you got it there and then, oh man, then you got to come back, right? So in order to prevent all of that, what you do is you hover over until you see the two arrows and then double click and ta-da! It automatically removes all of the spacing to the left and to the right. Okay, so now you can increase or decrease the size to however you want without worrying about having any extra spacing, just like so. Okay, so that is one way that you can align. Now, if you want to make sure that this is perfectly at the edge, then we can go ahead and increase that so we can see a little bit better. Let's bring in our guides. And that is probably pretty good, right? But you can see here that A is touching the line, but the E is not. So what you could do is you can click on the text box. And if you try to increase the size by hovering over the end circle here, this is already set to snap, right? So you might be able to get it and you might not. So in order to get some of that precision sizing, go ahead and press and hold the control key. And now you're able to manipulate it ever so slightly, right? And then what you have to do is you have to let go of the mouse first, right? So I let go of both of them at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the mouse, click on my control, get it to where I want, let go of my mouse, and then let go of the control. And now you'll see that they're perfectly touching both lines. Okay, so that is one way we could do that. That's probably the easiest way. Now, if you want to change this and maybe you want them to be all caps, right? So now we have to make the size smaller, right? Because we need to get that in there. So what you could do is you can either reduce the size of your text, right? But again, you have to finesse a little bit to get them all to the line there, which is not a problem. Or you can also use the letter spacing, right? And you can increase the spacing of the letters so that it touches the ends of the lines. Now, when you're using the spacing, you have to be aware of the alignment of the text. So right now, the text alignment is set to center, meaning when I use my letter spacing, it's going to create the spacing from the center out, right? So let's see here. See how it's going from the center out, okay? If you're trying to fill the space and it's not doing that, it could be because your alignment is set to something else. So if we set the alignment to the left and then we go to our spacing, now you'll see it is going to be left aligned and your spacing is going to go to the right. So here we go to the spacing and now it's going to go to the right because it's going to keep the text aligned to the left inside of the box. So it doesn't matter whichever way you want to do it. Let's go ahead and keep the E right against the line there, right? And then we're going to space it out so it moves to the left. And you can do that, but just know that if it's not moving in the direction that you want, it's because your alignment is not set to the center, okay? And again, you always want to double check. You can grab both elements and position, center, middle, and now you know that it is perfectly aligned and the text comes all the way out to the edge in perfect alignment. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you love Canva as much as I do, check out my other Canva videos. And until next time, my friends, adios.